I'm the VP of Business Development here at rezStream. For today's webinar, we're going to be doing it on the state of SEO. Liz Day, our Senior Account Manager, is going to be doing this webinar presentation. Liz has been with us at rezStream in the marketing department for 4 years. Actually, a couple weeks ago, or about a week ago, she just celebrated her 4th anniversary. So very excited to have her talent on board and her knowledge and expertise. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Liz. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to be going over the state of SEO, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. All right, so during today's webinar, I will touch upon a little bit about myself, and then we'll dive in about Google and some of the major updates Google has made and kind of what the goal was behind each of those updates. And then I'll conclude with some best practices so that hopefully all of you can walk away with some takeaways that you can go back and start implementing yourself. So about me, as Josh had mentioned, I'm Liz Day. I am a digital marketing account manager here at rezStream. Been here for 4 years. I was born in San Diego, California, raised in Peoria, Illinois, and decided to make the move to Denver, Colorado about 5 years ago. Some things about myself that you probably wouldn't know is that I love dogs. Unfortunately, I do not have a dog, and for those that are wondering, my dog of choice would be a German Shepherd. I'm also the oldest of 5, so that's always a neat experience. So about rezStream, rezStream has been providing hospitality solutions since the company was founded in 2005. We're located in Denver, Colorado, and we have about 21 team members with us. Majority of our clients that we provide services to are independently owned. So we're definitely a small company, but we have a lot of love for the travel industry, which is one of the main appeals that rezStream had to me when I accepted the position to work here. Not only do I love to travel myself, but I was able to get the opportunity to become an expert in the hospitality industry. So as opposed to just being a jack of all trades, I was able to get really focused. So we really pride ourselves on having that knowledge and experience. For those that don't know what our core offerings are, we provide a reservation software. So the reservation software is really the foundation of the company, and we're currently in beta testing for the second release of the reservation software, which is expected to launch in the next few months, so that's super exciting. We also provide an online booking engine. So we have 2 types of booking engines. One is the desktop, and the second is a mobile booking engine for those mobile users that are continuing to grow. Website design services include custom as well as templated website solutions. So obviously, as a team member on the marketing side, we work very closely with our design team. And then the 4th kind of main core offering that we offer is digital marketing services. So that includes search engine optimization, pay-per-click advertising, social media, as well as email marketing services. And then other supporting offerings that we provide is a GDS connection, so Global Distribution System connection. And Joe Jenkins provides professional photography and videography for those hospitality clients. So let's go ahead and kind of dive into why you're all here. And again, this is going to be really focused around what Google has been doing lately. So to go ahead and just to make sure that we're all on the same page, and for those of you that are already very aware of what SEO is, I apologize, but I felt it was important just to kind of recap again what it is before we get more specific. SEO is search engine optimization, and that's essentially the practice of improving and promoting a website in order to increase the site's organic exposure in the search engines. So search engines are going to be Google, Bing, Yahoo, and then obviously there's a lot of other smaller search engines, but those three are kind of the most popular ones that you probably hear about the most. So the main thing is you want to make sure that your site can be found by the search engines. So obviously if they don't know that your website exists or they're not able to locate every single page on your website, you really could be missing out on some incredible growth opportunities. So that's obviously the first key there. So exactly what do I mean by organic? Here's a snapshot outlining kind of what you probably see when you're doing searches in Google today. When you're wanting to do marketing in search engines, you really have two opportunities. One is the organic search listings, and two is the paid search listings. So organic search results are located within the green border that's highlighted here in this image, and that is going to be the not blurred out area. So SEO, search engine optimization, is the tactic that you want to perform to increase your organic exposure in the search engines. And then the second option that I mentioned earlier is the paid search results. So those are located within the orange border that I've blurred out for you. And in order to get exposure in the paid search results listing area, you want to perform pay-per-click advertising. And so that's really the tactic that you want to employ when you're wanting to gain exposure in that section of the search results. rezStream recommends doing both tactics. So anytime a client comes to us and they're asking, you know, what should I do? Should I do PPC? Should I invest in SEO? Our first reaction and first answer is always do both of them. If Google's giving you the opportunity to get listed in more than one location, obviously take advantage of that. So again, those are, you know, the two main areas that you can go ahead and take advantage of when you're doing search engine marketing. Obviously, if you have to choose between the two based on budgeting purposes, we recommend focusing on SEO. Just because, you know, you're not going to have to pay any sort of money when a visitor is clicking on those organic listings, whereas pay-per-click advertising, hence the name, you are paying some sort of cost every time a visitor clicks on that ad.
Yeah.
So Google updates. You may be asking yourself, how does Google and the other search engines determine my results? So the quick answer is algorithms, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about in more depth here soon. But what are algorithms? Algorithms are essentially mathematical equations that the search engines like Google have put together to really help them determine what are high-quality pages and what are poor-quality pages. And then obviously from there, the algorithm does the job of making sure the high-quality pages show up higher in the search results, and then the poor-quality pages are harder to get to. Unfortunately, Google does not share their exact mathematical equation with us, so we don't know everything Google is evaluating when they are rendering search results to their users. But some factors that Google does include in its algorithm is provided when they do those major updates. So just to kind of put it into perspective, each year Google updates its search engine algorithm around 500 to 600 times. So 500 is a lot, obviously, so you may not notice necessarily every time Google is doing an update, but there's also larger updates where those updates can really impact your website's organic exposure, and those are the ones that we definitely want to make sure that we're aware of. Because Google and the other search engines are constantly updating their algorithm, it's important to have a professional on your side to kind of keep you ahead of the curve. For the past 3 days, I've been in Seattle attending an online marketing conference called MozCon, and I kind of had an aha moment, as Oprah likes to call it. One of the speakers said, SEO is not a project, there is no end date, it's a constant work in progress, which makes total sense to me. Google and the other search engines will never stop making updates because they want to constantly improve their users' experience. So you should never have the mindset when it comes to SEO, as a set it and forget it tactic. It's constantly evolving based on the changes that they're making, so it's important that you're adjusting your SEO strategy accordingly. So why does Google and the other search engines make algorithm updates? I kind of touched upon that just a bit ago. So obviously, they just want to provide their users with the best information possible, and they want to make sure that every time a user is going to google.com to find something, that they're having the best experience possible. So now that we know more about Google and how the search engines work, let's talk about some of those major updates Google has made over the past years and kind of the goal behind each one of those. So the first one that I want to touch upon that you may have heard about is Panda Update. Panda was launched in 2011, and Google's goal for Panda was to prevent websites and pages that offered users poor content or information from showing up in their search results. So again, Google does not want to provide poor information to those users. So what does Google consider to be poor quality content? Google actually developed a blog that outlines all of their guidelines on how they're measuring poor quality versus high quality. And so I would really encourage you to go out and read that blog. It's located on Google Webmaster Tools blog. And if you have any questions, you can obviously just shoot me an email. I'll be giving you, you all my contact information at the end of the presentation. So for those of you that haven't read that blog yet or just kind of want some general factors that they take into account, some popular ones is obviously misspellings. You don't want to have poor grammar present on your website. If you have misspellings on several pages, it looks like you just don't really care, or you're not taking the time to make sure that users landing on your website are having a great experience. You can also get in trouble when you're just having a lot of pages with very thin content, is what Google likes to call it. So a perfect example is it's going to be a red flag if your website has 5 to 10 plus pages where you only have 1 to 2 sentences. Again, it may make sense for that to be the case for a contact us page on your website, but when you're talking about your rooms or an accommodation that you offer, obviously it's not giving the user a positive experience when you're only giving them 1 to 2 sentences worth of information about that particular type that you're offering. A third one that's really big that we see a lot with some of our new clients that come on board is duplicate content. So duplicate content is essentially just having several pages on your website that have the same information. So not just paraphrasing, but literally just copying and pasting the same information onto several pages sitting on your website or your domain. Another thing that you can get in trouble with, and I know it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but I do see it often, is when people have events calendars on their website, and what they'll do is they'll go to the Chamber of Commerce or whatever local resource they use to promote those upcoming events in their area, and they'll just copy and paste those descriptions. So that's an opportunity for you to, still you can use that information, but you want to make sure that it's unique and that it was developed by you, not by another website. So that kind of summarizes Panda. The second one that I kind of want to talk about is Penguin. So this launched in April 2012. And Penguin was focused on punishing websites that were engaging in spammy link practices. So what do I mean by spammy link practices? Examples can include having your website linked or listed on websites that are just completely irrelevant to what it is that your business offers. So a really good example would be if your property does not offer pet-friendly lodging accommodations, you should not be going out and getting listed on a pet-friendly lodging directory. Again, it just doesn't make sense for you to have that online relationship with that vendor, and it also confuses the user. And these are things that Google is definitely taking into context because people have just abused this in the past. There was a period there, several years ago where the whole game of SEO was just to go out and try to get as many links pointing to your website. So trying to get listed on as many websites as your property could, and the higher amount of links that you had, the better you would do in the search results. So this whole Penguin update was kind of focused on giving people a better idea of this is not how you should achieve high rankings. You should be focusing on the user. You should be focusing on making sure that the relationships that you are building online are relevant to what it is that you offer and provide to your customers. So the third update that I want to touch upon, and the most recent one, is the Hummingbird update. So Hummingbird was named Hummingbird because it was precise and fast and quick with giving you results based on what you were searching for. But Google really had, instead of taking the approach like they did when they pushed Panda and Penguin, where it was completely focused on tactics that you could be engaging in, that would be offering that poor quality experience for those users landing on your website, Hummingbird was more focused on them trying to do a better job of understanding what it is that their searchers were wanting to find. So it's often referred to as a conversational algorithm update. So Google was really no longer just focusing on the words that you were typing into their search bar. They were really taking into account the full picture. And so what I mean by that is they were looking at your previous search history, they were taking into account your location, and also taking into account maybe the time of day that you're searching for something, and then using all that information to then render results. So a really good example of showing how this Hummingbird has affected providing you with better results is the other day I typed in here on my desktop at work, how far is Los Angeles from here? And without me telling Google I'm in Denver, they were able to provide me with my information very quickly. And you can see there with that point A that they have indicated that we know that you're in Denver, Colorado. Here's the amount of time it's going to take for you to get to Los Angeles. And here's the current traffic, and here's the routes that we recommend taking. So this just kind of paints the picture of exactly what Hummingbird was all about. So now that we have an idea behind what those major updates were that Google has made over the past few years and kind of how it's changed how people are searching or finding results, I wanted to outline some of those best practices that we believe in practicing here internally with our own clients. So to get started, the first one I want to talk about is linking. So this goes back to that Penguin update that I spoke about earlier. And here's 3 big guidelines that I recommend following. 1, don't go out and build links for the sake of building links. So you want to make sure, again, that it's not just a numbers game, it's more of a quality game these days. So if you go out and you're just trying to get as many links as possible and you're not looking at exactly what the content of that particular site that you're wanting to get listed on is about, you could be getting penalized already. So it's important to understand who it is that you are building those online relationships with. A second point that I recommend following is ensuring all links are relevant. So that kind of aligns with that first point. But a really good example of a directory that is relevant to several of our clients is obviously TripAdvisor. So when you go out and you purchase a business listing and you have that opportunity to add your website's URL to that listing, that makes sense because it's within that same industry or niche. So again, you just want to make sure that the relationships that you are building online make sense to what it is that you're offering. And then the third, and this is kind of becoming the most popular one, instead of going out and building links, looking at opportunities for you to acquire links. So giving people or giving businesses a reason why they should want to share your content for you. So that's the best case scenario, is you developing something really great and somebody looking at you and saying, wow, this is really good information, I want to share it. And by people sharing your information, they're just essentially building links on your behalf, so it's not as manual of a process. So content will be something that we'll talk about in a bit, but that is a huge push that Google has continued to make. So I recommend looking at ways for you to encourage people to link to you using great content. So the second thing that I want to talk about is a best practice that we've recently started practicing, and it's with title tags. So for those of you that aren't aware of what a title tag is, it's essentially an element that gives the searchers an opportunity to learn what it is that page offers in terms of content. So it's much like a headline on a news article. It should accurately and concisely convey the page's content. So think of it almost as if it's this big billboard sign when you're driving down the highway. I love this quote from Moz because it really captures the importance of what a title tag can provide to searchers. So if your web page was a store on the side of a busy highway, the title tag's job would be to capture attention and get people in the door. So you may not necessarily even notice, but a title tag is actually that blue highlighted text that you see when you're doing searches in Google. So when it comes to title tags, it can be really beneficial to invest time in making them very engaging, but you also want to make sure that they're relevant to what it is, because obviously the more attractive that it is based on what that person's searching for, you could end up driving more visitors to your website through that page's engaging title tag. So some things that we recommend following best practices when it comes to title tags is, again, making sure that it's relevant to the page. The last thing you want to do is, for example, if you have a wedding services page or a wedding photography page, the last thing you want to do is use a title tag to give the idea that it's not about that information. Say you want to talk about the amazing accommodations that you offer. Well, if you were a user, if you clicked on that search result and you thought you were going to an accommodations listing and you ended up on a wedding services page, that obviously can be a poor experience that you're providing, and that would encourage someone potentially to leave your website. So again, it's not the best case scenario. You want to make sure that you're not tricking people, that you're being upfront, but also being creative when you are developing those title tags. The second bullet that I have here is keep title tags unique to each page. So I often see when clients come on board that they have a really good title tag, but that title tag is the same one for every single page of their website. And that's just not taking advantage of those opportunities. So you want to make sure that not only are you investing time in making sure that each page's title is relevant, but that you're taking the opportunity to make them all unique, again, to really hone in on what it is that page is offering them. The third one is avoid keyword stuffing. So keyword stuffing is basically just making sure that you're not using synonyms or a variety of keywords, and you're trying to push that all into a title tag. So the last thing that you want to do is use that title tag to say the same thing over and over again. So an example would be hotels in Denver, Denver hotels, Denver hotel. You know, that just isn't, it's just bad practice. It's hurting the creativity, it's hurting getting the attention of that searcher, and it could get you in trouble because Google will consider that to be a spammy practice. So the most recent one that we've implemented is keeping title tags to 55 characters or less. About a week or so ago, we actually pushed a blog post on rezStream.com that I would encourage you to go and read. But it talks about Google and some of the major updates that they made to the title tags and how that kind of forced us to adjust our own strategy. So Google essentially just did a redesign, and it only affected title tags. So you know, instead of having 65 characters is what we typically would follow, we've now have reduced that to 65 to 55. And the reason behind that is we want to make sure that we're showing the entire title tag that we've developed in a nice, clean, organized manner. If you're doing your own searches in Google, and you can see there below that where I've highlighted those 3 ... that indicates that the title tag is being cut off. So we want to make sure when we're developing title tags for our own clients that they look nice, pretty, and nothing's getting cut off. And the one below that, the snapshot where it has before and after, it just indicates what it is that it looked like before and then after they made that redesign for the title tag. And essentially they increased the font size and they removed the underline. So again, these are minor changes that you may not necessarily notice, but it's big updates that we have to be aware of as professionals so that we can adjust the strategy accordingly to make sure that we're really providing and engaging those users with the best experience possible. So I think we're on the third best practice. The third is content. So I talked a little bit about this earlier when it came to linking and trying to acquire websites, linking to your own website. But content is a huge thing. And what I mean by content, it's not just text. It could be social media posts, it could be infographics, it could be really cool other images that you might have on your website, it could be videos. So you want to make sure that you're not just limiting yourself when it comes to developing content to just putting text on a page. So Google, based on that Panda update that they had made a while ago, is completely focused on making sure that the information that websites are promoting is helpful to that user. So to make sure that you have quality content on your website, I've offered a few bullet points to kind of walk you through and maybe help you determine if there's an opportunity for you to improve or maybe you should just remove the page as a whole. So the first things first is you want to review your Google Analytics. Hopefully all of you have a Google Analytics account. If you don't, I recommend doing so. It's free. There's no reason why you shouldn't, and it offers great information and insight into how users are using your website now. So for those of you that do have Google Analytics, go in, check out the pages, look at the visitor metrics. So some of those visitor metrics that we like to look at internally is bounce rate, to see if people are just landing on a particular page and leaving, an exit rate. So finding those pages that are pushing people off the site, that they don't want to stay on it for whatever reason. You want to see how many new users are landing on a page to see if it's attracting new customers for you. Time on site, just to see if they're engaged in the content itself. So you want to make sure that you're looking at those visitor metrics and you're identifying those pages that aren't performing well. And then from there, the next question that you really want to ask yourself is, does this content help my users? Is it answering a question that they could be looking for? And if it doesn't, you want to make sure that you are removing it from your website. So an example of a page that may not be worth you taking the time and updating and researching and putting together would be, say, an old event page. Maybe that old event page is just performing very poorly. People aren't even accessing it. The ones that are looking at it are leaving. So from there, you want to really evaluate, okay, is it worth my time updating an event page that took place 3 years ago? Probably not. So from there, you want to then have that page removed from your website. So hopefully you have a website design team that can kind of assist you with those requests. But again, you know, that's a really important thing for you to think about. The third one is you want to ask how you can make your customers' lives easier by solving a common problem they face. So again, you want to make sure that at the end of the day, people are able to land on that page and get the information that they're looking for. And the fourth one that I would recommend doing is if you are conducting or engaging in social media and SEO, those two should really be working together. For those clients, for our clients who are using both of those services, we have conversations. I know I constantly have conversations with Stephanie, who's our social media specialist, all the time about potential content building opportunities for my clients. She has a lot of insight into what it is that people love reading, what are people engaging with, what happens if there's this main topic that people just love hearing about, but you don't have a page on your website that exists to further enhance that information. So a perfect example would be weddings. If people just love hearing about weddings, they love seeing pictures of the weddings that you host at your property, maybe there's an opportunity there for you to add 1 or 2 or 3 pages to, again, kind of keep that engagement level high, both on your social media networks as well as your own website. So I would encourage you to look at your own social media posts to identify what's engaging to your audience, and then using that as a great resource and a great starting point in outlining new opportunities for you to build pages about. And one of the last ones that you want to do that I'm a firm believer in is creating an editorial calendar. So this, again, is really helpful because it just allows you to be organized. It does take time to put a structure and organize all the topics that you want to write about. But again, it keeps you organized, and it's worth the investment to do that upfront because it's then at the point where you just kind of need to produce and promote that content once it's added to your website. And I think the last and most important thing when it comes to content is making sure that you have a professional to write your website's content. It goes back to making sure that your website's grammatically correct, you don't have misspellings, because those things can affect kind of how Google thinks of your website in terms of the information and experience that you're offering. So that is something that I recommend doing and investing in. The last thing is just making sure that you don't want to have the too thin or low quality pages, because again, those can suffer, that can make your website not perform as well as it should be. And it just goes back to doing that content audit by looking at Google Analytics and figuring out what pages people just are not engaging with. So the last thing you want to do is get a message like this from Google where they're telling you, hey, listen, we've kind of penalized you because we think that the content that you've offered on these pages just isn't providing any sort of value. This is a really good example of us developing some really cool content. We work with one of our clients who's awesome and creative at developing really cool topics and ideas about what people could potentially enjoy doing when they land on Maui. And so we worked to kind of add a new piece of content offering those users or those potential travelers information so that we're tracking them kind of early in that research phase so that they're really identifying that particular website as the authority when it comes to Maui lodging. So the other best practice that we've started pushing a lot on is SCHEMA. So bear with me because this can get a little technical, but I promise I'll try to do a bit of a job to try to simplify it. SCHEMA was developed by the search engines, and it's essentially a type of code, different types of code that you can add to your website to further enhance your organic listings in Google and the other search engines. Google and Bing and Yahoo actually developed SCHEMA to provide their users with more information about those different search results, and then promoted it to marketers like us to say, here's something free that you can go ahead and add to your website or your client's website, and it will offer our users more information about what it is that you do. So obviously this is something that we take advantage of. So some key benefits with SCHEMA: obviously it's free. The eye-catching results, because the results when you add SCHEMA to different pages of your website can actually take up more real estate. And because it offers more information and is taking up more real estate in that organic section, you could attract more visitors and more clicks and more traffic to your website. So again, this is all winning. And the last thing, you're just offering more information so that you can kind of come off more relevant to what it is that they may be looking for. So what does SCHEMA look like? So here's an example of when I was searching for a mojito recipe the other day. So you can see there that it has a little image of that particular mojito recipe. It has ratings and reviews. So these are all examples of different types of schemas added to this particular listing, and I'm sure you've seen this. But for you all, you can use SCHEMA to promote a variety of things. You can promote a particular package or special. You can add additional contact information. So this is one that we've pushed out across all of our clients' websites to say, here's the phone number and email address for this particular property. Reviews, if you have really great positive reviews, you can add a particular type of schema that's telling the search engines to pull those stars next to your search results. You can advertise an upcoming event. You can include your logo. So instead of having that mojito picture for your property website or for your businesses, you can add your logo in there. And you can also include some social media interaction. So maybe 20 people have liked a particular blog post and you've received 5 comments or 200 downloads if you're offering an e-guidebook. So these are all examples of how you can take advantage of SCHEMA and how it can benefit your SEO strategy. And a huge advantage with SCHEMA is kind of highlighted there in that quote where less than 1% of websites have implemented SCHEMA. So by you taking advantage of that today, you're already doing something that your competitors probably aren't engaging in, and that's just going to give you that competitive edge as well as get more of that opportunity to drive that visitor to your website as opposed to their own. SCHEMA can be added to any page of your website. So if you want to add it to just one page, you can add it to one page. If you want to add it to all of your pages, you can do it. You can use different types of SCHEMA. So if you want to promote a package and special on one page, you don't necessarily have to do that for all the pages. But this does require some developer time. So I recommend making sure that you have somebody that can kind of assist you and guide you through that, to walk you through what their recommended approach would be and making sure that they can test it to make sure that it's implemented correctly and that it's showing up in the search results. So SCHEMA is a huge opportunity that we recommend taking advantage of. Google+. So I know many of you are like, oh, not Google+. Everyone, I think no one's a huge fan of Google+. I think there's only a few people, but it is important. Google Plus is, again, offering you that additional opportunity to get exposure in the search results. So a perfect example is here you can see we have a Google Plus page at rezStream and we manage it and we promote our content on there, and it does offer some opportunities. So here's an example of a post that we pushed out on our own Google Plus page talking about a content marketing article. And then you can see to the right of that that we had that particular post show up in Google search results. So you can see that it's offering that additional exposure for those efforts that you're putting into managing Google's own social media network. So it is something that we recommend doing. And then the whole idea is the more engagement that you receive on your Google Plus listing, the more exposure you'll receive in those search results organic section. So when it comes to setting up your Google Plus page, you want to make sure that you're optimizing it correctly. So we recommend including a tagline. So the tagline is right here, an example of you provide hospitality, we provide solutions. This is rezStream's page, but I just wanted to kind of make sure that I showed you all those different pieces. You want to make sure that you're including an introduction, so telling people a little bit about what your property is all about, put in some unique selling propositions, and then you can see that the blue highlighted text, Google Plus offers you the opportunity to embed links. So when people click on the reservation software highlighted in blue, they're taken to our reservation software landing page. So again, that's not something that Facebook offers, so it's something that we recommend taking advantage of. You want to make sure that you're offering all your contact information. So if people want to email you or they want to call you, you're adding all that information in there. Definitely include your local phone number. So you can see there that we have an 866, which is our toll-free, and then we have the 303. Make sure that you're including your local phone number. That will assist you, your property, and your website showing up in those local results. And then you can see we have a little check mark next to the sales@rezstream.com. So when you are adding your email address, you want to make sure that it's verified. I believe that whatever email address you're adding in there, you are sending a confirmation email, and you just want to click on that link to kind of finalize that process. The last thing is you want to make sure that you're adding as many links as possible. So you're adding your website URL, you're adding your social media, and also you're adding in some of those top pages that people want to visit. So a good example would be probably those accommodations pages, maybe specials and packages pages. If you offer any other services like meetings and conferences and all those other really revenue-driving services, you want to make sure that you're including that under that link section. We also just pushed an article about a week ago talking about Google My Business, which is basically Google changing and rebranding as they have constantly done over the past years. And although it's frustrating, I think we might have found a solution with them launching Google My Business. And so that's essentially combining Google Plus as well as the Google Places listings into one. So I recommend going to that blog post and checking it out and reading it. And then again, if you have any information, please feel free to reach out. And the last one that I want to talk about is mobile. So mobile is obviously a huge topic. It continues to be a huge topic. Mobile travel sales are expected to increase 60% in 2014. So what I would recommend doing is using your own smartphone. So if you have an iPhone, if you have an Android, go to your own website and search for it and see what that experience is and find out, is it easy to make an online booking? Is it easy for me to look at the accommodations? Put yourself in the customer's position and really look at if you're really optimizing that mobile experience correctly. So kind of the popular choice these days is going responsive. So responsive websites essentially are going to reside on the same URL as your desktop website. So it's not going to have an MDOT, it's not going to be a Mobi URL. It's going to be the same URL as your desktop has. And that essentially is really the popular choice by Google because it makes them sync very quickly and easily. They're not having to figure out that, okay, the MDOT is your mobile website. So obviously going responsive is that popular choice, and it offers you the opportunity to not just stick with 5 pages, but also, you know, offer every single page on your website to those users. It's also important that whatever mobile-friendly solution you do go with, that it's quick to load. So ultimately, at the end of the day, Google really cares about making sure that their users' experience is positive. So you want to make sure that when they are clicking on that search result to visit your property website, that they're able to get that information within seconds. It should not take a long time at all. So that's another thing that you want to take into account when you're doing your own tests. And Google actually created a page speed tool that will assist you or your website design team to identify how you can speed up those loading times. So Google offers some recommendations when it comes to those different types of mobile solutions that you could be going with. So they offer guidelines for responsive design, dynamic serving, a separate mobile website. So you just want to make sure that whoever is putting together that mobile solution, that they're taking a look at those guidelines and following them. And the last thing you want to do is pay for something that's not able to perform the way that you want. And further, the last thing you want to do is get in trouble by not following those guidelines. So to kind of wrap up today's discussion, I have these high-level points. So just to really quickly recap, you want to make sure that you're aware of Google search engine updates to maximize your own organic exposure. You want to make sure that you're employing and building and acquiring relevant links to your website. And ideally, you want to try to push amazing content out so that people will want to look at you and link to you. Make sure that your title tags reflect 55 characters or less. So do an audit, see kind of what it is that your title tags look like and make them engaging. Go through your website, identify poor quality pages, determine if it's worth updating so that you can improve those pages' performance, or determine if it might just be best for you to get rid of those pages. Implement SCHEMA because not many people are doing it, and you want to beef up your organic listings results. So take advantage and gain that competitive edge that's out there, and it's free to take advantage of. Claim and verify, optimize, and most importantly, manage your property's Google Plus page. So you don't want to just set it and forget it. You're not going to maximize your organic exposure by just doing the tagline optimization or the description optimization. You want to make sure that after you set it up and you have everything verified, that you're posting content on that page consistently and regularly. And the last thing is ensuring that your site is mobile friendly. So provide that mobile experience. It's not going anywhere. It's not a fad. So invest the resources into getting that mobile solution today so that you can start optimizing those mobile users that are attempting to get to your website and through your website when they're on a smartphone or a tablet.